Hello everyone. Now I've had my HP Reverb G2 for just over a week now, and I think it's about time we talked it through. Is it any good? Does it live up to the expectations? And should you buy it over a Quest 2? Right, so a bit of backstory first. Now it feels like the G2's been a long time coming, so I ordered this back in start of July. It was advertised by HP as the No Compromises VR headset. It had the best resolution available on the market, certainly within that price range. It eliminated the screen door effect. The visuals were amazing. It had this fantastic tracking system. Everything we were looking for in a headset. A fair few months have passed now and they've started shipping. Is it a no compromises headset? Quick answer, no. But there are some really good points. First of all, the comfort. So this thing is really, really comfy. So pop this off for a second. It's got this sort of padded strip that goes around it that is just fantastic. It's an antimicrobial material, really fine knit, super comfy. The same material is found on the back of the strap. Now this positions fantastic on the back of your head. It's attaches via a couple of Velcro points on the top and the side. They're a bit fiddly, but I love them. So if you compare it to the Quest, now I find myself fiddling with the Quest every time I put it on. I'm never quite sure if I've got it in the perfect position. I'm always thinking, can I get this a bit better? Because you're sort of manually doing it every time. Now this one, you play with it for a few minutes the first time you put it on. You get it into a good position and you just stick with it. And you kind of go into it with a bit of confidence each time, knowing that you're set up for a really good session. Now I could last hours with this thing on, if not a full day. It's really, really comfy. It doesn't get hot, it doesn't get steamy, you don't get sort of misted up when you're playing. There's this nice little rubber guard around the, I don't know if you can see that on there, nice little rubber guard around the nose that stops any sort of breath getting up into the screen and fogging it up. It also stops any light bleed, so you've got this sort of perfectly blacked out view, which is awesome. The next one's the usability side of it. So how was it to set up? So out of the box, it was pretty easy. Now the UK were quite late in the shipping, so I'd seen a couple of other people unbox one already, and I'd heard of the sort of issues they might have encountered. So I went into it with a bit of prep. That made for it a really, really easy setup, and I had no real issues at all. I was in and playing within about 5 or 10 minutes, no issues whatsoever. One of the biggest downsides to the usability of it is actually this high quality lead it comes with. So you've got this cable, it's 6 meters. It goes to a little box and then into your PC. It's thick, it's durable, and it feels really good quality. I'm sure it will last for ages. It feels like the kind of thing you could roll your chair over a dozen times and never have any issues. That's awesome. But you pay a price for that because it's hefty and you can really feel it. You feel it draping over your shoulder. You notice if it's getting caught around your legs or if it's getting caught on anything in the room, and you do kind of feel like you're dragging it about a bit. If you compare it to the link cable you could use with an Oculus unit, they're sort of worlds apart. They're sort of nice thin leads that you can sort of whip around, no real issues. This isn't that. You have to go into it prepared for that. I think I'm going to be looking into a pulley system or something to get it up and out of the way, because it is a pain and it kind of puts you off jumping in at points. The next thing you got the controllers. For anyone who comes from an Oculus world, these controllers can be very familiar, very similar layout, very similar sort of button setup, really easy to use. They feel nice and comfy in your hand. Bit of a bigger ring around the top. When you're in your headset and you can't see those and you're used to the Oculus Touch, you do end up sort of banging them together a little bit because they are more substantial than you're used to. But they're quite sturdy and durable, and there's a bit of flex in them, so I don't think that will cause you any problems. And you do quickly adjust. They feel really comfy. They feel nice to hold. The buttons are sort of fine. No capacitive touch, so that is missed out, but I don't really use that for much anyway, so I don't really care, and it's pretty good. So yeah, I'd give the controllers a thumbs up. So next up, you've got the IPD adjustment. Now IPD stands for interpupillary distance, and that's the distance from one pupil to the other. Now to get really good visuals on a VR headset, you need your setup configured so that the lenses are positioned in the right place in comparison to your pupils. So you're looking at the sort of sweet spot in the middle of those lenses. Now this headset comes with a fantastic manual system. So if you see down here, you've got this little dial here. You can slide this over to left and the right. Really easy to get exactly what you want for your setup. It means if you pass it around from one person to the next, really quick and simple to play with that, and it's easy to remember where yours should be set up. I might even mark mine with a little bit of Tipex or something if I'm willing to damage it a little bit, but yeah, you'll be set up and it's good to go. So into the main selling point of this headset, that is the visuals. Now the resolution is an awesome 2160 by 2160 pixels per eye, and that is fantastic. So you've got these two LED screens. It is LED, not OLED, but the colours are fantastic. The blacks are really deep and everything really holds up. Really impressed. Got no screen door effect. You've got no mirror. You've got no chromatic aberration. It looks amazing. Definitely the best visuals I've ever seen, and a big step up over the competition. It's any game that you've got that sort of graphical fidelity that you really want to go after. This is the perfect headset for it. So any Sims, things that have great textures in, like Half-Life Alyx, fantastic. You're really going to love it, and you're going to have a great time. Now the next area to look at has had a lot of negative attention in recent reviews, so I'm quite looking forward to giving my piece of input there, and that's the tracking. So when we talk about tracking, we're talking about, first of all, how your headset knows what direction it's pointing in and how it is facing and moving in comparison to the rest of the room, and then how your controllers are positioned in comparison to that headset, where your controllers are pointed, where they are around your body, and what they're doing. Now this uses inside-out tracking, just like the Oculus Quest. So it's got little cameras positioned around the headset which track your controllers. Your controllers emit LED lights from the top, so your controller can be spotted by the cameras on the headset, and that relays the position to the system. Now it's not a perfect system, but it's not awful. It's been getting a really hard time, and it doesn't deserve it. It's not perfect. I would say it is less accurate than the Oculus systems, but it's not unusable, and I've been hearing this sort of unusable phrase quite a bit lately, and it just isn't. It really holds up in pretty much every scenario, but you need your room set up for it. If your lighting is too high, it's not going to work. If your lighting is too low, it's not going to work. What you ideally want is a dimly lit room. You don't want bright sunlight. That really causes you problems. I've had a couple of times where I've been playing with my headset on, curtains closed, having a really good experience. My wife might walk in to grab something, think, oh, what's he doing in the dark? Just open the curtains. I've got the audio playing, and I haven't even noticed. 5 minutes later, I'm thinking, what's going wrong? This just isn't working. Lift the headset up and realise, the curtains are open. And there we are. Put them back and everything's sound again. Now, the controllers, because they're bulky, they can block each other a little bit every now and then. And when you go outside of the cameras, it isn't perfect at predicting where the controllers are. So you do sometimes have issues. But genuinely, after about 10 minutes playing with it, you adjust to that and never really think of it too much again. I'm quite happy playing with this in a competitive scenario. I've been playing lots of contractors, lots of Population 1, Pavlov. No issues whatsoever. Really good. Games like Half-Life Alyx, where you're doing sort of puzzles, you're throwing grenades, you're picking things up. No issues. Really good. So onto the audio. Now that's another big selling point of this headset. So it uses the same audio system as the Valve Index. It's got these sort of over-ear blaster speakers that sort of fire the sound down into your ears without going into actual over-ear headphones or in-ear earbuds. It's amazing. It really gives you great spatial audio. So when you've got footsteps coming around you, you can pretty much tell exactly where they are. Really helpful when you're playing competitive shooters. Just fantastic. If you jump into any horror scenario, it really sort of raises it up a level and makes for some quite terrifying sounds. So next up, field of view. When you've got your headset on, how far can you see in that headset? Now it's advertised at 114 degrees, which is sort of slightly above the offerings from Oculus. I wouldn't say, for me, it quite holds up to that. Now, this will all be dependent on your face shape, because the closer you are to those lenses, the wider your field of view will be. For me, it feels slightly lower, but I'm willing to put up with that for the experience it provides. Now, I would say there's lots of room to improve that. So this sort of face gasket pops off. And now this is really thick, and that is what's keeping your eyes further away from the lenses. If you ever have the chance to fire up your headset, take that off and just sort of press your eyes in without that, you can see how close you really could get if someone was to design an aftermarket system with a slightly thinner pad. That would increase it quite substantially, and I'd say it would be worth it. So VR cover, we're waiting for you. How smooth is it to play? So it runs at 90 Hz. Now the Quest has just moved up to 90 Hz in many of its features, not quite all of them yet, but many of them. G2, it's 90 across the board, and for me it's been a fantastically smooth experience. Everything feels as good as I've ever seen in a VR system. Really impressed. No issues there whatsoever. Now the biggest downside to me has been the little bugs that come along with it. And sadly, none of them have actually been to do with the headset. It's all been to do with the Windows Mixed Reality platform. So HP Reverb uses Windows Mixed Reality. Now that's a platform they don't own, they're sort of working with. And it isn't great. It isn't as good as Oculus, it isn't as good as Steam VR, and it brings quite a few bugs along with it. And we have to sort of deal with those. Now I must say, nearly every bug I encountered was on day one. And since then, I've had a lot less. I'm not sure if there's been some sort of firmware updates or just software updates in the background they haven't alerted me to. But they haven't been repeated. I was seeing things like when you press the Windows button to bring up your little menu, it will just crash your game. You'd be walking around the Windows Mixed Reality platform home they call the Cliff House, and just hitting little bugs, things not really running smoothly. As you try and open up different platforms, they would crash and things wouldn't be great. But that's all stopped, and I really can't tell why. It's odd. I'm not complaining because everything's in a good place at the minute, so I'm hoping it stays that way. That being said, as soon as you jump in, you can jump onto your desktop and try and forget about it. You can try and jump straight into Steam VR and run everything through there. You can use Revive to use the Oculus stuff, and it's all been pretty good for me. So one of the big questions then, in between the time that this was announced and it launched, Oculus managed to both announce and launch the Quest 2. Now that's thrown a bit of a spanner into the works because the Quest 2 is a pretty fantastic offering for the price. So the Quest 2 brings the ability to run a PC VR headset, but also to run it in standalone mode without being connected to your PC. If you do want to use your PC, you can connect using virtual desktop, so you can still play with no wires. The resolution's great, the functionality's great, it's really easy to use, really easy to set up, the tracking's good, and the resolution is pretty close to that of the Reverb G2. So it kind of soured the taste of this offering when it arrived. So what have I found? Which have I been using more? If I'm honest, I've been jumping in the Quest quite a bit despite having the G2 here, which was a little bit disappointing for me at first. But I've since sort of settled into certain games playing on certain systems. So the games that are all about visual fidelity and high graphical intensity, I've been running through the Reverb G2. The ones that are about quality gameplay and sort of fast speed, quick movements, I've been running through the Quest 2. That's worked pretty well for me, and I think I'm gonna stick with that going forwards. But what should you buy? If you're new to the market and don't have a headset yet, I couldn't honestly say jump into the G2 as your first headset. I think you're going to encounter too many bugs. It's going to be a bit of a stressful experience for some, and it might put you off in the long run. If you were to go with the Quest, it would be a bit more seamless. It's easy to jump into. Everything's just going to work, and it's going to be pretty fun. If though you've already got maybe a Quest 1 or an older unit, you've been on the VR scene a little while and you want to upgrade it, then the G2 is fantastic. You're going to know how to iron out those little issues because you've probably dealt with them in the past. It's all pretty simple anyway, and you're probably going to really enjoy those upgrades. The upgrades aren't enormous to someone just looking in. It's the kind of thing you have to have a bit of past experience to really notice. But with all that being said, I am really happy with the G2. I'm going to be sticking with it. I'm going to be using it quite a bit over the coming year, I should think, and it should be fantastic. It does all leave me quite excited for what will come next. So they're both units that I've been talking about today have pushed things forward quite a long way, but they don't tick every box yet, and it'd be great if we could see something come along that really does. So I am looking to the future and hoping things keep progressing because we're in a really good place. That's it for me today, folks. Thank you very much. If you like that, do us a favour, press the like button. If you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, press subscribe. It helps me a lot. Thank you very much, and I'll see you another time. Cheers.